Welcome to Takeology with your three boys in the lab so you can do the cooking. We're here, we're ready for some action. Hope you're doing well. It's been a while. Specifically, it's been a month since we've been here. It's a whole new year. You could say it's been a year, maybe even. But Mr. Matt McDonald, we have him in the building. How are you doing today, my guy?
Doing good. I'm glad to be back. It's felt like a year since we've done a podcast, but the holidays, work,
Yeah.
it's a lot, but I'm glad to be back and talk about the playoffs. We're here. It's been a long time, but it's finally came, and I can't wait to see my Chiefs win another Super Bowl.
Here
First
we
time
go.
three-peat. First time ever three-peat. We're
This
going to be
guy's
the new
already yapping.
we're going to be the new standard of what dynasties are. For so long, it's been the Patriots. We are creating a new standard, and it's going to be written in the history books, and we're going to be telling our kids about it in 30 years when the Chiefs suck again. But we've sucked for a long time, and now we're back, baby, and I can't wait to tell my kids about it.
Never again. Well, actually, the Patriots are in a position where they are now, I guess. But dude, at least that's fair. I can definitely agree with that. You guys are a dynasty. You guys are setting a narrative of like this is success now in the 2025, right? I think you guys can do it. But I've also been wrong already about a few playoff games. So I also, speaking of some wrong thoughts, the Dallas Cowboys. Real quick, we'll do a little bit of lab report. Man, I haven't even got to say that word. The lab report. It's been a month. I'm glad we're back, dude.
We're so back.
Holidays are
We're
over.
so
Oh my
back.
gosh, it's time. And just because fantasy season is over doesn't mean we're out. We're here all season, year round, baby. You know, we'll have some cool stuff coming out. We'll see what we're doing. Hopefully, we get a better schedule. But lab report, we got going. Mike McCarthy fired from the Cowboys. How do you think this is a good thing, a good direction for the Cowboys, or do you think this was a bad play on them? What do you think?
It really depends because Mike McCarthy, say what you want about him, he struggled in the playoffs, yes, but this guy has led the Cowboys to multiple 12-win seasons, and even this year when they had terrible quarterback play, he still had I think 7 wins. So he's a coach that he's going to win you a lot of football games and get you to the playoffs. The struggles have just came once they reach the playoffs.
Hmm.
So it really depends on who they hire. If it's like Ben Johnson from the Lions, the OC, that would be a great hire. He's
That would
a
be.
great offensive mind. But if they get someone that Jerry Jones just hands picks to do his bidding, I really don't see this situation improving much because they've tied themselves down to Dak Prescott for better or for worse. He's their quarterback long term, and they've paid CD. They're about to pay Micah. So the players they have are it's really their team. So
Yeah.
a coach is going to define this team a lot. They have the talent. They just need to get a good coach in there and set a culture. But Mike McCarthy, he won a lot of games for him, so it's going to be interesting to see who they hire.
Yeah, honestly didn't expect it. I thought, like, especially Jerry Jones. I think it was a few weeks ago. Was just like, this is our guy. We're riding with him. And it was like, what do you mean? You guys didn't make it to play. Like, you guys didn't have a good season. But they ended up firing him. They couldn't agree on a contract. So we'll see who comes to the Cowboys and if they can change the narrative or maybe see where Mike McCarthy goes. I don't know. A lot of options. Could go to the Bears out there. You never know. Actually, that'd be kind of. I don't know. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe see what we can do with Caleb Williams. Well, since it's been a month and we are back in business, we didn't even get to talk about our fantasy football playoffs, how it went for us. I'll tell you on my end, terrible. I made the playoffs, skinned through, and I lost first round. It is what it is, right? Even in our dynasty league, I didn't even make it to the playoffs. I was like a few points away, and that kind of hurt. But Matt, on your end, I know this outcome, so I know you don't want to talk about this. But how did your playoff success go? What did it look like?
Uh, I mean, you could look at it from different angles. You could be
Oh,
optimistic about it and say, "Hey, I got to the third place game and first place game. I just happened to lose both." Um,
hmm,
So it was definitely disappointing. You work all season towards something and you lose in the last game, but yeah, it was a good problem to have. I think I had 4 of the top 10 receivers, and I just played the wrong ones.
yeah.
Also played the wrong defense. I didn't expect the Giants to put up 40 points. So it was definitely disappointing, but it all that's the fun thing is it makes you want to play next season already. So it's already got me looking forward to the next season. So I'm excited. It's just you know how it feels. It's always disappointed when you lose in the championship game, but it makes
Yeah,
you want the next season to come even worse. So I'm excited for next year and hopefully we can pull it out.
we'll see what we can do. You've been up there for a few years in a row. I mean, at least you've touched the championship game. I won 2 years ago, got into this that championship game last year, and then here we are doing cheeks. So we'll see how it goes. But it was fun. It was a good time. I've enjoyed doing fantasy. Ready to do it again. Dynasty's still going. Got a lot of top prospects coming out of this college year this year. So we'll see how that goes too. We may talk about that later on. Kind of get into a dynasty side of the podcast. That'd be cool. But we'll have some new stuff coming out. We'll be talking about different things. But speaking of fantasy, and this is kind of, I guess, in our way to round up our fantasy season to talk about it briefly. Matt, we're going to talk about our fantasy MVP, our fantasy bust, the guy who was cheeks, and our fantasy value, a guy we got at value that was so good. Maybe even it was ours or somebody we seen that somebody else got, because it could be a vast different type of guys. But I wanted to throw it to you first, and I think we'll start low, right? So, who was your fantasy bust this year that you would say like this guy he just wasn't it? I couldn't ride with him.
Yeah, it's an easy choice for me. Mine came from Marvin Harrison Jr.
Hmm.
We've talked about it all year. This guy was picked in the late first, sometimes early second, and he was a guy that you kind of expected to come in his first year in the league and be a top 5 to at least a top 10 receiver. And you thought him and Kyler would develop a connection that led to really eye popping numbers. I mean, this guy in college, he looked like he was the next coming of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. He looked like that type of receiver. And then he comes to the league, and him and Kyler just never really connected. Um, Marvin Harrison ended up finishing as the 29th receiver overall. And when you draft a guy in the late first, early second, that is not the type of production that you are wanting from that high of a pick. And for a lot of teams, I know our friend Avery, he drafted him in the early second, I think. And it's just a type of a move that you either had to trade him or you just had to ride with him every week, and it ended up being a ride that for the most part was a really bad one. I mean, he was the type of player that you felt like you had to play, and he consistently just disappointed the managers week to week. So that's for sure my bust. He could come in next year and just be a steal. People are down on him and they draft him later in the draft, and him and Kyler develop a connection, and he could be a great player next year. He has all the talent in the world. It just him and Kyler never connected. They looked out of sync for the most part all year. So he's a guy that will be interesting to watch next year because if he drops and drafts, he could be a steal. Just depending on where you have to take him.
Forgot my mic was muted. I do that all the time. We've both done that before. Anyways, we're back. All right. So, um, I think one thing you said that was real good, that's important to point out when you draft a guy so high, you almost have this feeling where you have to start him, where it's like I can't not start this guy. I think I felt that with Tyreek Hill a little bit. I drafted him number one, my first receiver off the board, and he was a guy I couldn't even start half of the season, but I felt like I had to. That's something where you're going to lose games because of that, just because you have this feeling where you got to start him. It's like, why would I not put this guy in? And Marvin Harrison did not. He just didn't perform this year with what we expected. I mean, he is a rookie, so I guess our expectations should be lower automatically. But when you come in with that much hype, you expect this guy to be the guy on this team, and he just wasn't. Now Trey McBride on the other side balled out this year. That was another side of that team, but Marvin Harrison just didn't get it done. So maybe we'll see it next year. But I agree, that was definitely a bust, especially with that it was round one, end of round one, beginning of round two turn when people were drafting this guy. And what you said, receiver, what 20? What was it?
29th and half PPR.
That's not good. Ain't good at all.
He barely cracking the top 30 as a late first round pick. That right there will sink your team. And
Yeah,
Avery knows. I mean, I'm not even talking crap. I would have drafted him at the same spot Avery did, but when
yeah.
you draft a guy like that, it just leads you. I mean, he ended up trading him, but he didn't get the near value that he should have, and it really tanked his season. Marvin Harrison just, I'm sure he did it to so many people
Yeah,
that played fantasy this year.
I think a lot of people took running backs in that round because they were going to keep Marvin Harris as their number one guy. That was their receiver one on most teams. So to know that he was their number one guy at receiver 29, and depending on what running back they got, they were in a bad position for sure.
That
For
was for
sure.
sure a strat, like taking Puka, Devontae Smith, Marvin Harrison, one of those guys as your one, and then drafting two running backs. I mean, you may have got lucky and taken Saquon in the second or Derrick
Yeah.
Henry because those guys slipped. But if you didn't get lucky doing that, he probably really cost you this year unless you got good value for him through a trade.
Yeah. Avery did a pretty good job, I think, in trading it, if I remember correctly. I
Yeah,
can't don't know what he
I
got out of
think
it.
he got Bijan and something Garrett
Mm-hmm.
Wilson,
Garrett
Bijan
Wilson,
and Garrett Wilson, and then he traded Marvin Harrison. I forget who else he traded,
James
but
Cook, James
yeah,
Cook.
James Cook. So that actually ended up being good for him.
Yeah.
Now, needless to say, it was a trade that our members in our league were not a fan of because
Yeah.
it wasn't a very fair trade. But I'm under the I'm my opinion is if you can get someone to accept your trade, it is what it is. That's their
Let it
fault.
fall. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I am a trade fiend, man. If I can get him going, I'll get out there and send everybody. I'll send the house. All right, one of these I have a few honorable mentions on people that were busts. I mean, there's tons out there. For some reason, I got to experience a lot of them. I'll just mention three names here that were on my team. They were all busts. Okay, I'll talk about one specifically: Anthony Richardson, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Etienne.
Yeah, that's a
I don't
real
know if
star-studded
we
cast there.
Dude, I looked back on my week one. If I would not have traded and done what I did, I would have been the last team, hands down. I traded Travis Etienne for Josh Jacobs. Talk about a trade, dude. Week two, sent that man. I took a risk and it paid off. But Travis Etienne was a bust. He was on that end of the round two, kind of like that one of those with Isaiah Pacheco, Derrick Henry even was kind of in that same boat, and he was just a total fail. But I wanted to kind of hyper focus on Anthony Richardson because I believed in the hype. You were talking about the hype about Marvin Harrison. I believed in the hype of Anthony Richardson. I couldn't find. Would you look up what quarterback number he ended as of the season? I
Yeah,
couldn't find that.
I'm sure it's terrible. Let me look it
Oh,
up.
it's not good. But I'll give you his stats at least on the season. Right, 1,814 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Now, mind you, obviously he didn't start all of the year, but that's a part of that fantasy value that's awful. I drafted
You
him
want
as.
you
Go
want to
ahead.
take a guess?
I'm gonna say 36. No, I would not
Okay.
36. Well, maybe.
He did better than that.
Okay.
He and it was mainly just because of his rushing touchdowns. He was kind of in a similar position Jalen Hurts is, where he vultures some of those goal line touchdowns. But he ended up as a 25th quarterback.
Dang, dude. 25th
And
quarterback.
people were just so people remember that he was getting drafted in the fifth round, sometimes fourth, depending on if quarterbacks were leaving the board early. So I mean,
Yeah,
it it didn't tank your season completely because you made a good pick with the rookie Jaden
Jaden Daniels.
Daniels. But man, if you wouldn't have made that pick, that would have been catastrophic.
Oh, dude, I don't even. I probably would have been on like. I would have been depressed all season. More than likely, dude.
You would have needed the phone line.
For real, dude. Because I'm telling you, it was bad. I had a terrible team to start, but Anthony Richardson, I think I drafted him right after Josh Allen. I'm pretty sure. I think Josh Allen off the board, and I took Anthony Richardson because I was like the rushing upside. The first week he had a great game, 26 fantasy points, and then I don't think he reached 10 until like week 12,
Yeah,
above 10.
just to put it in perspective, Bryce Young, who was sat down for almost half the season, it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the he played a little over half the season. He was the 20th overall quarterback, so
That's
five
how bad that
positions
is.
better. And Anthony Richards, I mean, he did get hurt some,
Yeah,
but good lord, for Bryce Young, who got benched to outscore him, it's pretty embarrassing.
That's awful. And Bryce Young wasn't even drafted in fantasy. There's no doubt in my mind. So for that guy to for me to draft him in the fourth round as the second quarterback off the board, the value I got out of that, and many other people, even if you draft him in the fifth round, it wasn't good. Same thing with C.J. Stroud. He's an honorable mention, to be honest, out there too. But it just hurt this year. The quarterbacks, it was sad. It really was, and we didn't expect it. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. You know what I mean? But Anthony Richardson was definitely a bust. Same thing with Tyreek Hill. But that's partially not on Tyreek Hill. Like that's not all his fault. So it is. I'll give him some grace. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. All right, those are our busts. A few honorable mentions we threw out there. What about a value you had this year? Would you say like where you draft a guy maybe late round that actually ended up popping off?
Yeah, I'll go with a guy who hit close to my heart this year. I took a shot on James Conner, and this is a guy that, I mean, I think we've come a little jaded to him. He's been in the league a long time. He's had a few injuries here and there. He's never played a full season. So he's one of those guys that kind of slips in drafts year to year. Um, but coming into the Cardinals this year, they just really didn't have any competition for him besides the rookie they drafted, Trey Benson,
Yeah.
but he was hurt early on, so I knew it would be James Conner. And with Kyler and Marvin Harrison's connection not being the greatest, this really opened the door for James Conner to just be the bell cow of this offense. And with there not being much competition there, he really got everything. And
Yeah.
I think we saw it over the year this time. I mean, he finished 10th overall. He was the 10th overall running back this year. And
Really?
I think that really surprises people. And it wasn't just because touchdowns either. He was heavily involved in the passing game as well. And he really just carried a lot of teams this year because he was taken late in the draft. And he was a guy that really could help supplement some of these running backs that didn't hit this year, like Travis Etienne. And there's multiple others. But he was a guy that just people picked up for really nothing at the end of the draft. And he ended up being a top 10 running back. And when you're talking about such a late pick like that, anything, I mean, even top 20 would have been a great value for where he was taken. So he really had a great season. And he ended up not being able to play a full season for the first time ever because he got hurt in the last game, which is
Oh,
really unfortunate. I was hoping he would make it. And he's actually part of the reason that I lost the championship. But I mean, he helped me all year, so I can't really be mad at him. But I was really hoping he would pull out a full season for the first time.
dude, I did not realize that he was running back 10 on the year.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, he
actually
was
insane.
he was ahead of Joe Mixon, Bucky Irving, Alvin Kamara,
That's
Aaron
crazy.
Jones, David Montgomery. And like David Montgomery he was held to such a standard where people were like, this is a top 10 running back. And he played great. He was the 16th overall, I think, which he really was a value as well.
Yeah.
Um, but people all year were almost talking about James Conner just in a different light than these other top 10 guys. But he was right there with them all year.
Mm.
And I think he just kind of flew under the radar.
Yeah, I didn't like when you said that, I was like, no freaking way. James Conner. And like the Cardinals aren't nothing to like toot their own horn. They weren't that great this year. But that's crazy that even he almost made a full season, which I feel like anytime we talked about at the beginning of the year, if he can stay healthy, he's gonna be a dog. But I didn't think he was gonna be a top 10 kind of guy. But that's legit. That is definitely a value.
He's one of those examples of where like you can't draft to someone worried about their injuries. Like
Mm.
you have to put that aside and just it's a new year every time we draft.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't work. Like this year with Tyreek, Tua ended up getting hurt, which you knew that when you drafted him. But you just have to take chances like that to win a championship. And it ended up working this year with James Conner. Next year they signed him to a contract as well. I probably should mention that. So he's going to be their guy next year as well.
Mm.
I will say with Trey Benson getting another year in the league under his belt, it probably won't be such a bell cow for James Conner next year. But I mean, he's extended now. He's got a couple more years on his deal, so he's a guy that you can take late in the draft next year, and he might help you just like he did me this year.
Well, gotta be willing to take risk in fantasy, bro. Gotta be willing to take risks.
Sometimes it doesn't
Dang.
work out, but you just got to live with
Well,
it.
got no one to hold him and no one to
When
fold
to
him.
fold them.
Oh my. What a saying, bro. Can live and ring true. All right, an honorable mention I just want to throw out there, okay? Brock Bowers. I just want to throw it out there. I'm not going to talk about him because I didn't get to experience the hype as a Georgia fan, though. You know what I'm talking about? I'm going to make my dog start barking, I guess. But go dogs. Although we lost it, Winston. See, I got him started up.
That was
He's
on
a
me.
dog fan too. No, it's okay. We lost to Notre Dame. It is what it is what it is. But he's a fan. I can't. He loves the podcast. So. But all right, one of my values I want to talk about was Jaden Daniels, and a guy that I took. Go ahead. You go ahead and give another value for me. Go ahead.
Okay, I got you. While he's tending to Winston, he's a good dog. We shouldn't have barked. That was on us. Another value this year, I had him on my team as well. He was another late round guy. He was Jackson Smith-Njigba. And this was a guy that I've had multiple. I had him last year as well. And I think we all know, if you're a fantasy fan or an NFL fan, when Jackson Smith-Njigba was drafted, he was held into the light of these top five guys: Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill. He was kind of an undersized guy, but at Ohio State, he led the country. I mean, he was fantastic. He was a first round pick to the Seahawks. Jackson Smith, I think Alex knows. I dealt with it all year. It was hard to start him because of last year. He really burnt me last year. But this guy ended up as the 14th overall receiver this year. And people don't really see him as doing that well this year, but he killed it all year. And he was another part that made me lose my championship game. So these values are really just hurting my heart. But he played great all year. Geno Smith, he was leading the league in passing for multiple weeks. The Seahawks offense, it almost became Jackson Smith-Njigba was the one and DK was the two. And that'll be interesting to see going forward for next year, because DK, he was drafted high compared to
Yeah.
Jackson Smith. So if that trend continues, DK might be a value for next year. You never know. But Jackson Smith, he was a great player this year. He won me a lot of weeks. He just happened to lose me the most important one. So I'll put that aside.
Gotta love that. Jackson Smith Jigba. He's also one of those guys where, although I just didn't, maybe it's because I didn't pay attention to him. I don't know. Where he snuck up there and was kind of a top 15 guy, and you're like, what? Really? I think we've had conversations about it a lot when we talked about football of like, dude, you got to start this guy. Like, there's almost no question. But you had so many options. It's like, how can I put in the second guy? But like you said, he kind of became the number one.
He really
Yeah.
did, especially with Ken Bone Walker getting hurt. If there's a bust, he really is a frustrating player to have in fantasy. Kenneth
Kenneth
Walker just
Walker?
cannot. Yeah, he can't stay healthy. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't personally have him this year, but I knew a lot of people that did, and he really hurt some fantasy teams because he would end up playing and then only play half the game because he re-injures himself.
Yeah.
So it's a real T Higgins feel to Ken Bone Walker. So he's a guy that I would be very careful about drafting next year, because Zach Charbonnet, say what you want about the guy, I tried to trade him multiple times. No one would take him. I drop him. Alex picks him up. Charbonnet legit could have won me a championship if I kept
Dude,
him.
for real.
But
A glass of Charbonnet, dude. I tell you that dude helped me out, man.
man, that guy, he truly is talented, and they drafted him high. Charbonnet was a second round pick, so
Yeah.
he's a guy that he might be valuable next year, especially if you're just looking for an insurance running back, because Kenbo Walker, he's gonna get hurt again. He's kind of like James Conner. He's gonna get hurt. You can't trust the guy. So
Yeah.
he would be a guy that you need to look at late in the draft next year, because he could pop off just like he did at the end of this year.
He definitely could. He's a dog, man. Like he has that downhill speed where if he can just make a hit a gap certain way, nobody else is there, he can just bust it out to the end zone there, dude. He's a dog. But I'm thankful for Zach Charbonnet. So
I'm sure you are.
I'm glad I picked him up, man. It was help me out, bro. All right.
He made you make the playoffs.
Yeah, he
He
did.
he he forced you into the playoffs with what did he have? Was that his like 30-point week, or was
Yeah,
it
I started him.
was it a 40 point? He went. I think it was like
It was
three
huge.
touchdowns.
It was 30 to 40. It was huge. And then I started him again when he had the 20-point game or something like that. He popped off, man. He popped off straight up. But yeah, sorry about Winston, man. I'm telling you, he gets riled up when you talk about the dogs. When Georgia Bulldogs go dogs, But
That's all
it is
right.
what it is.
I told the fans he's a good dog. He just barked a couple times.
He's a fan, looking out for us. Even though Notre Dame, I can't even talk about it. Freaking Notre Dame, dude. All right, so my value pick was Jaden Daniels. This guy, as a rookie, I almost did this strategy. I'm gonna be real with you. I should have. I was gonna go no quarterback and go for Jaden Daniels at the end and just ride it out and see how it goes, dude. If I would have done that and not picked Anthony Richardson and could have got a top guy, I'm telling you what, crazy. Just because when you have an upside of rushing for some, fantasy, we've talked about it before. Fantasy has such a huge upside in rushing touchdowns. This guy in a few games kind of was the leading rusher. He was the running back and the quarterback. And, dude, he has just balled out this year. He ended up at quarterback 5. Now, I don't know where he's drafted. I wish I could see that on here in terms of like the turnaround. But I'm pretty sure I drafted him like late last few rounds, maybe the last 3 rounds of the draft. Got this guy. And he's quarterback 5. I started him all year except for his bye. You know what I mean? A rookie that you can trust in that gets you 20 a game. This dude was a huge value. I'm sure he might have even won people playoffs. I mean, won people fantasy championships, to be real with you. I mean, if they could have had a guy like Saquon and him paired up, you never know the type of teams people had. But the dude was a dog. He had 3,568 yards, 25 touchdowns, dude, as a rookie. And he just won himself a playoff game. They may win it all.
I don't think you could ask any more from the guy, and he is the exact reason that you take a rushing quarterback. And it doesn't matter if he was a rookie like he was this year. People coming into the draft were a little scared of him because they didn't think he had the personnel on offense to succeed. But when you're a quarterback at the level he is, he made the players around him better. He resurrected Zach Ertz's career.
Oh, my
He
gosh,
made
yeah.
Brian Robinson early. I think people forget early in the season, Brian Robinson was like a top 5 running back. That
He
guy was
was.
going off, and you called it as well. Eckler was going to be a good pick this year. If he wouldn't have struggled with the concussions, he probably would have cracked the top 25. But Jaden Daniels, he really just made the Commanders a great team. And I know we haven't talked about it yet, but he showed it in the playoffs. He's one of the he's like one of the 5 only rookies to win a playoff game in their first year. So
Really.
he's an impressive player, and to bring a franchise like the Commanders, who have been so bad for so long, it was a impressive year.
I think I saw something the other day. I was watching the game. He was like 5 years old on their last playoff game. The Commanders last, or the Redskins at the time. But that's crazy. That's actually insane that this dude was barely in school, and that was the last time the Commanders were in the playoffs. He's a dog, dude. He's next up, man. I hope next year he does well. Also, a guy, Diami Brown, has been popping off with them, dude. Just a no name receiver out there that should become something. Really.
That's what good quarterbacks do. They make
Yeah.
the players around them better. I mean, I'm not even trying to toot Mahomes' horn. He's made the receivers at Kansas City 3 times as good. I mean,
Yeah.
we've won championships with Juju, which Juju started off good, but he really tailed off fast. We got the McCole Hardman from the Jets last year. He
Hey,
ended
don't
up
dog
with
him. Don't
Hey,
dog him
I
now.
know he's a Georgia Bulldog, but he ended up winning the Super Bowl on his touchdown catch.
He's like
So
that. Yeah.
we
Yeah.
made Kadarius Toney a good player, and that guy couldn't even stay on the Browns.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is it just good quarterbacks make their players around them good? I think even Jared Goff this year, he's made Tim Patrick pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just
That's
these
true.
good quarterbacks find a way to elevate the players around him. Josh Allen, he hasn't had a great receiving core this year. Even look at Jameis Winston. He resurrected Jerry Judy's
That's
career.
true.
Yeah, I mean, so it really just depends for these receivers. Whoever their quarterback is really gonna it's really gonna be the reason they either play good in fantasy or play bad. So that's a really thing to look at when you're drafting these players. Is I tend to stay away from bad offenses. Now, sometimes it works, like Chuba Hubbard this year. He surprised a lot of people. But generally, you want to draft these players from good teams. And
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin, he ended up having a great year, which I think you called that as well early on.
Yeah.
And that was solely because of Jaden Daniels. Terry McLaurin has had the talent. It's just the quarterback hasn't been right in Washington. So it's great to see Washington succeed. And Jaden Daniels, he's going to be a high pick next year. So
Oh yeah.
I I won't be a part of that draft because I know he's going to go early, but he's going to be a great pick again, no matter where you take him.
Dude's a dog, man. It's almost like he'll take the position of where Anthony Richardson was drafted this year. And to be honest with you, because he's going to be good again. And, well, there's a sophomore slump. That's real. But I don't think this guy will slump too much. They're bringing a lot back for next year. And their defense is also – they turned it around. It was pretty bad at the beginning of the year, and then they kind of picked it up. All right, last but not least, the most valuable player in fantasy football. Well, I think we have two different guys we're going to talk about, I'm pretty sure. And if not, I'll switch it anyways. But I'll start us off, dude. This guy won people championships, and he's done it year after year. And I wish my boy Brevin was here today to talk about this man. Josh Allen. What a dog, dude. And like you just said, really, I'm shocked with the receiving core he's had, and especially that Dalton Kincaid. I mean, that's another guy we can talk about that was a huge bust. Oh, my goodness. We thought he was in the top five, or top five of guys, tight ends drafted that were going to be good. Dude did nothing. But Josh Allen, year after year, it's that rushing upside. And because of that scheme in Buffalo, that they're saying, Josh, you run, and we don't care if you slide. Do what you want. Even with, I mean, they got Amari Cooper, but he hasn't done much. But this man ended as quarterback 2, which is kind of crazy. I think Lamar is number 1 in total. So it's
Yeah,
kind
he
of
is.
it's up and down. But Josh Allen had such big games when it mattered, right? I mean, game after game, he had a 50 point games this year in fantasy.
Yeah, 250, a 40, a 30. I mean,
Just
Lamar
massive
had a
numbers.
great yeah, Lamar had a great year, so it's no shame that he's the number
Yeah.
2 quarterback, but goodness gracious, he played amazing this year.
To me, I got to say Josh Allen because of the fact that the people he had around him offensively isn't as good as the people Lamar Jackson had. Even Derrick Henry, oh my goodness, he also could be an honorable mention with how huge he was this year where he was drafted. But Josh Allen balled out, man. He did. Number 2 quarterback on the year, 3,731 yards, 28 touchdowns. And they just won a playoff game too. We'll talk about here in a minute. But even though my boy Bo Nix couldn't pull it through, but Josh Allen, man, he won people. He won people the league. I know our champion in our fantasy football league had Josh Allen. So
Yeah, when you're putting up 50 burgers and 40
yeah, dude.
burgers, there's not much other teams can do. But yeah, that 28 touchdowns was, I think that was just passing, correct? Because I know he
That's
had
only
over,
passing.
yeah, he had over 14 rushing as well.
Let me see.
Um,
Yeah, okay, yeah.
so yeah, he went berserk this year.
Crazy.
Um, I'll go a different route. I'll go running backs. An honorable mention. He's close to my heart. Jameer Gibbs. I heard it the night of the draft.
An
The night
honorable
of the draft.
mention. Really?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the other guy is just you know who it is. It's the top guy. But Jameer Gibbs, night of the draft. Everybody's saying David Montgomery is going to take all of his points. David Montgomery. David Montgomery. And David had a great year.
He
But
did.
Jameer Gibbs, if this guy had the sole role in
Mm,
Detroit,
be
I
nasty.
don't. He would be what 100 points clear of the next guy. When David got hurt, he went berserk.
He
He
did.
just had a 4 touchdown game to end the season, but he ended up carrying me basically to the last game of the season. He was a great pick this year. He's going to be one of those guys that's probably going to be top 5 next year, and that's with David Montgomery there still. So that's really impressive. But the real MVP I'm going to talk about is Saquon Barkley. Um,
Mm,
I don't think there's much more than just hearing his name that people need to hear. But this was a guy that had all the talent in the world coming into the league. He just happened to go to the Giants, and he was the sole focus of every defense, every game the Giants played. Lo and behold, you put him on a Philadelphia team that has the number 1 rated offensive line, plus really good receivers on the outside. If he's not the full focus point of the game plan for the defense, Saquon is going to tear them up. And it was a little disappointing not to see him get the all-time rushing record, because I think if he would have got that, he would have had the argument to get the actual MVP, which would have been amazing to see, because it's become a quarterback award, which makes sense. But I would have loved to see Saquon get it. But this guy was the number one running back in fantasy this year. He had 322 points. That is 30 clear of the next closest guy. And Derrick Henry had a great season, and he was the number 2 running back. But it was just so impressive to see Saquon this year. And he could have had even more yards, but they sat him in the end of the season, which I understand. You want to keep him healthy. But if you drafted this guy in the second round, it was like late second round sometimes as well. If you got him for that price, he most likely won you a league, as long as you drafted well in the other parts of the draft. But he was obviously an MVP for me.
I remember us talking about in the beginning of the season. We're like, man, Saquon. I think both of us agreed on this point that Saquon wasn't going to do it. We were like, we're not drafting this guy because Jalen Hurts is going to take it from him. We didn't believe in him, and boy, did he prove us wrong, dude. I'm talking, he balled out.
Oh,
Just balled out.
A wild stat is he had 4 separate touchdown runs that were more than 60 yards. That
That's crazy.
alone, that just basically, in a nutshell, describes his season. When you're
Yeah,
that explosive, you're gonna have wonderful fantasy weeks.
that's insane. And this Eagle teams look pretty good. They do look pretty good. I really thought Jalen Hurts was going to take a lot of those, and Jalen Hurts has here and there, but it has not affected Saquon's value. It has not affected his game. But yeah, I wish he would have got the record too. But I would have kind of been like, he had an extra week. Come on, you got to do it in the week 17. I feel like for it to be legit, you know. But
In the end of the day, though, 30 years on, are we really gonna remember that he had an extra game? No.
somebody
So
will though. Somebody will.
I
You know,
I think if it would have been a lesser amount, that I think he needed like 125 yards. If it would have been like 50ish yards, I think they would have let him get it. But I mean,
yeah.
that actually is a lot of yards to get in the last week of the season. So you
You have
don't
to
want to
run a
risk,
lot.
yeah, you don't want to risk your best player getting hurt. But the last game was against the Giants, his former team, so it would have just been poetry watching him get the all
That
time
would have been
record against
crazy.
them. But I mean, he's got more chances. He's going to be with the Eagles for a while, so hopefully we can see him try for it again.
A legend. A legend. We're watching it. We'll see what they do in the playoffs. Already won one. All right. Speaking of playoffs, here we are. That's our wrap up, I guess, on the fantasy season. We had a blast. Looking back, I drafted all types of wrong. I even just thought about. I even drafted Calvin Ridley, dude. Like my team was hot cheeks, and I can't even believe I made the playoffs. I did my magic, man. I'm telling you, management was crazy. I was in the locker room every week, hyping my boys up. I was at practice. It was insane, but we
He
made it.
was sending about 10 trades a week.
Dude, for real. Oh my goodness, it was so bad, bro. It was so bad. But all glory to God. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Lord, for the playoff. No, the Lord and hard work. You know what I mean? But here we are. All right. We were gonna have an episode last week, but we ran into some issues, and we were gonna make our predictions. So you didn't get to hear our predictions. We'll predict the rest of the playoffs. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the first few games, and I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna put it out there. I'm gonna put it out there now. I'm a underdog kind of guy. I like to go for the underdog. That's why I was like, Bo Nix is going to be better than Caleb Williams in the beginning of the year. It panned out well, but it sounded stupid at the time, right? I had the
Still sounds
Chargers beating the
stupid.
Texans. It still does, I guess. But looking back, it was a good call. I had the Chargers beating the Texans, but my goodness, was I wrong? Justin Herbert on the season had 3 interceptions total for the whole season, and in this specific game, he had 4. The Texans came to play, dude. And I thought without all these weapons, there's no way the Texans are going to do it. But CJ Stroud came and played, man. And, dude, Joe Mixon, another, honestly, like, huge value this year. I didn't believe in him either. He had a touchdown and 106 yards in this game. I mean, do you think the Texans are kind of like what we thought they were again? Or what do you think? Is this Chargers that bad?
So you're not going to like my answer. They're going to get
Okay.
absolutely decimated next week against the Chiefs. But just talking about this game,
Yeah.
I think the Chargers they have a great defense. You can't hold that against them. They just were put in a terrible position this game with
Yeah.
their offense getting four turnovers. So I won't blame this game on the Chargers defense. It's just so Justin Herbert, he's been in the league and he's been I mean, I think this is like year 5 or 6 and he's got his long-term contract. He's paid like a top 5 guy in the league and with he's I'll give you a question here. What do you think his winning percentage is? Like just do you think he wins 60% of his games, 70 or do you think it's lower than that?
Overall, like overall,
Overall, his whole career.
I feel like I would give him over 50, so I'd go 60%. Like I feel like he's right there.
So his overall winning percentage is just above it's one game above 500. And
Oh, so he's right there.
yeah, when you're in the conversation with these top 5 guys, Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar, you just have to have more playoff success than he does. And I
Yeah.
know he has eye-popping numbers. I think he's the quickest player ever to I mean, he's the quickest to a certain amount of passing yardage. So he holds a lot of records as far as early on in his career, but he just has not shown it in the playoffs. This game, like you said, he threw 3 interceptions all year and throws 4
To
this
four.
game.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, his rushing game was not helping him at all. Dobbins only had 26 yards rushing, but
Mm-mm.
when you're paid like he is, you're supposed to elevate the players around you. That's how these teams get away with paying their quarterback so much, like the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens. They all pay their quarterback a lot of money, but he elevates the players around him. And the only guy that was worth a crap this game was Lad McConkey, which he's going to be a stud. That's another
He is.
bulldog. I know you love him.
Yeah.
He already is. He
Oh yeah.
already is a stud as long as he can stay healthy. But I I mean, I listened to all the talk shows today. Justin Herbert got railed, and
He
he's
did.
and it's deservingly so. This Texans team kind of limped into the playoffs. They started off hot, but they've been decimated with injuries. Their number 2 and 3 receiver got hurt this year. So to let a Texans team put up 32 points on you when you're the number 1 defense as far as opponents' points scored, I don't think it's because of the defense. I think it was solely because of the Chargers offense. And one
Yeah.
of those picks wasn't on Justin. It was a drop that turned
Will
into a
Disley,
pick.
dude.
But
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, he was throwing just whiffs.
He was.
He overshot Lad McConkey by like 2 or 3 yards over his head, and it was
Yeah.
returned for a pick six. So I don't know. He's just gonna have to turn out some better playoff games if he wants to continue to be talked about with these top 5 guys.
I agree. I do kind of want to throw a side of this of like Justin Herbert doesn't have any help. I mean, his number one receiver is. I understand like his defense is good, right? He's got J.K. Dobbins back there, whatever. But his number one receiver is a rookie, Lamb McConkey, and I don't. Maybe it's on Harbaugh for this game plan. 14 targets to Lamb McConkey. I love it as a fan of Lamb McConkey, but dude, you're going to a rookie every play. Where you got to throw this ball around everywhere else, and they need some more weapons. Quentin Johnson's not it, in my opinion. Josh Palmer's not it. So I don't want to all blame it on Justin Herbert, but I mean when you throw 4 interceptions, you're going to lose a game because the Texans didn't just play like out of this world necessarily, right? But I don't know. I don't want to dog on Justin Herbert too much. I think if they can get a good receiver, give him a year. Give him one good year next year. Because with Lad's good, man. He's a good second guy. He could be a number one. I mean, not really, but he could, right? I don't know. What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
I do agree that he doesn't have much help, but the Texans, I think it's kind of swept under the rug since they won the game by so much. But they themselves had 3 turnovers,
Yeah,
so it wasn't like the Chargers just had so many turnovers that it was unescapable because the Texans had 3 themselves. So they ended up only having one more turnover. Um, but as far as your point goes about the help, I do agree to a certain extent. But Mahomes last year, not to bring it back to the Chiefs, but we had no one. I mean,
glazing, bro.
you can
Glazing.
attest to that. All season, I had heard that our receiving core was terrible, and it
Yeah,
was terrible. It was terrible. But these quarterbacks that are paid $50 million a year like he is, you have to take a cut somewhere else on your team. And in this case, it just happens to be their receiving core. But they have 2 first-round picks that he's throwing the ball to. You can say what you want about Quentin Johnson, but he's a
That's
first-round
fair.
pick, and he had moments this year. So they've invested capital
That's fair.
into these receivers. So and Will Disley, I mean, I know he had a bad drop this game, but he was all right this year. And then J.K. Dobbins, he was a okay running back. So I don't know. They definitely can use more weapons on the outside, but you just can't put out a performance like this against a Texans team who limped into the playoffs. Their offense looked pretty terrible, with the
It did.
exception of Nico Collins and Joe Mixon coming into this game. But they basically got beat by 2 guys, Joe
Yeah.
Mixon and Nico Collins. That was literally it. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting because the Chargers, they have to play in Mahomes' division, and now the
Yeah.
Broncos are good again. So, and shoot, the Raiders, they're looking into hiring Bill Belichick, and then they could get Deion Sanders as a coach as well. So this division's good. So they're going to have to get better. I don't know what
Yeah.
else to say for them.
Part of it. I think they're heading the right directions, though. To be honest, like they don't look awful. This was a bad showing for them. I mean, it is what it is. I would like at the beginning of the season, I would not have thought they'd make playoffs in general. To be real with you, the fact that they're there is kind of crazy. So
Yeah, I don't want to be too hard on them because I mean
yeah,
they had an 11-win season, so that was a good
yeah,
season. But now with them making the playoffs, they're going to play a tougher schedule next year, so they're really going to have to lock in and get better in some aspect. I think Justin
yeah,
Herbert will play better. It's not that I
yeah.
don't think he's capable of it, but his 2 playoff he blew a 27-0 lead last year against the Jaguars, and then this year he got beat 32-12.
Yeah.
So
It's bad for the
it's
resume.
something yeah, it's something you need to watch.
That's fair. Maybe he's like a James Harden. I'm a Houston Rockets fan, and every year I was like, I love this guy, but when he made the playoffs, I was like, I hate this guy. So
Funny
it could be one of
enough,
those things.
yeah, that comp was brought up all day today.
Oh,
It
really?
was on football shows. It was on everything. They were comparing him to Joel Embiid, James Harden. They were just comparing him to these guys that don't perform in the playoffs. And
Yeah.
if he doesn't watch out, he's going to get labeled like that. And that's not good for your mental. It's not good for anything. So
No,
hopefully he escapes that.
it's like a one trick pony. Is that what they say? Like that's you can just be good during the season, but I don't think that's the case. I think Justin Herbert can turn it around. Truly, I think he can. But speaking of quarterbacks here, this next game, I know Avery's not here. He can't defend himself. He hasn't been here in a while, but he's a Steelers fan, right? And I wanted the Steelers to make this a good game. I really did. But for a while there, it was just pivotal to watch. Like it was like I'm turning my TV off. Like this is just not good football. But really, like I was looking at the stats here. Russell Wilson, 20 for 29, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like looking at that, you're like, dang, dude, he didn't play bad, right? But the running game was just stifled. This defense is good. It really is. And when they played them before, they've stopped the run. But I don't think the Steelers can do it without George Pickens. Like that's all they have is George Pickens and maybe some big plays here and there. Do you think going forward, and I know we'll talk more about the game, but do you think going forward Russell Wilson's the answer? Do you think they sign him again? Or do you think they ride out with Justin Fields? I mean, what does this look like for you?
It's really tough because when Russell became the starter, he had like 3 games in a row where the offense had scored 30 plus points, and then they kind of figured it out, and they ended up just going on a huge downhill turn. But I think the thing with Russell, like, yeah, he had a pretty good game as far as numbers go, but when you actually watch this team play, they live or die by the just lollipop throw downfield. And if that is not connecting, it really a lot of those yards came from a long George Pickens touchdown catch.
Right.
So
Into garbage time, I think,
yeah,
too, wasn't it?
and yeah, it was. And Russell, if you watch these games, he cannot go through his reads when there's pressure in his face. He is immobile now. He's too old. He can't go through his progressions when he's got anybody in his face. So it's tough because I don't really know who's out there on the market that is better. Like maybe Sam Darnold, but now in hindsight, you look at this game tonight, which we'll
Mm-hmm.
talk about, but Sam Darnold, he has had a tough last 2 games. And Justin Fields, he's a fantastic athlete, but he struggles so heavily in the passing game. So the Steelers, it's the same problem they've been having for the last 10 years. They're too good to get a high draft pick, and
Yeah,
they're so I don't know. I don't know what the move forward is for them. They could try drafting, but they're not going to draft a quarterback early. They never do. And when they did with Pickens or Pickett, it didn't work out
it's
for them.
bummed.
So
Yeah,
it's a really tough situation. I've seen Aaron Rodgers. That's the team he's projected to go to, which
really.
my opinion on Aaron Rodgers has been known.
Yeah,
Is he an upgrade from Russell Wilson? Possibly, but
I don't think so.
He's the exact same quarterback as Russell. He's immobile, old. He just happens to be a little more accurate in the short yardage throws. So I don't know. It's a tough situation for him. And the rushing game sucked
Yeah,
this game. That didn't
it was
help at
bad.
all.
Yeah, it was so bad. 6 carries, 17 yards from Najee Harris. 2 carries from Jalen Warren. They didn't even really try to run that. Well, they were down. I understand, but like you have to establish a run game in a sense to even open up the field more to get the passing game there because this defense is good, and they were pretty bad first half of the year, but they turned it around. We don't really have to talk about the Ravens side too much because I know we got a few other games to talk about. They played well, and just the Steelers. It was kind of underwhelming to see. It's what they do. They make the playoffs, they lose, and they're stuck there again. Do you think they're firing them real quickly? Do you think they're firing Mike Tomlin?
It's so tough. He's kind of in the same situation that Mike McCarthy was. He wins a ton of games for your team, and you lose that first game or second game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I think Mike Tomlin is legit top 5 to top 10 coach in the league. I mean, you look at the success he's had with the quarterbacks he's had. I don't think
Mhm.
many other coaches could do that. He's built an amazing defense, and they don't have any quarterback talent. But with that being said, I think it would be best for both of them just to move on and
Yeah.
let Mike go find a better job to where he can actually get some offensive talent.
Yeah.
But if they end up keeping him, he's going to have a good record next year, and they'll probably make the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to watch that for sure.
I feel like I'd rather be a bad team than a middle of the pack team. You know what I mean? Just because like you're gonna get the good draft pick. You know what I mean? It's honestly how life works sometimes. Middle class is the hardest class to live in. Anyways. But yeah, so Steelers, we'll see what they do. They're probably gonna lose Najee Harris too, so they'll look like a different team next year offensively. Defensively, I think they're bringing a lot of guys back. I'm pretty sure. I don't think they have anybody leaving. Maybe Fitzpatrick or Hayward. I don't know. But anyways, Broncos Bills. I wanted to in my heart, I wanted the Broncos to pull through because I was right. We were on the Bo Nix train, chugging along, but they couldn't do it. I mean, he didn't have a bad game, a rookie, and he played a great team in the Bills. I'm thankful he's doing good. He'll be legit next year. This is going to look good for the team. Cortland Sutton had a great year, by the way, too. Didn't really mention that. He could be a value this year as well. Kind of snuck under the rug. But, dude, Josh Allen, he gets it done. Even with the people they have, Curtis Samuel was the guy, 3 for 3, 68 yards and a touchdown. Khalil Shakir had the most targets and most catches. One thing maybe to talk about this game real briefly, because really there's not much to it. The Bills just beat them. Amari Cooper, this is so weird to me. He has not been utilized as the number one guy. Why? This guy's been a number one guy at Dallas. He's been a number one guy on the Browns. He comes to the Bills, and it's Khalil Shakir. He's been
Uh,
good. Don't get me wrong, but like, what's going on here?
I think a lot of it is Amari Cooper. As much as he can be used in the middle of the field, that's Shakir on this team. Shakir is going to run all the middle routes, and Amari Cooper is being utilized basically as a downfield threat, and that's about it. So he's going to take a lot of attention from the defense, which really helps Shakir and Curtis Samuel and even Dalton Kincaid. I think you've kind of seen an uptick from Dalton since Amari Cooper was on the team, and he just gets a lot of focus put on him. So that's helping the other aspects of this team. And really, if you look at it, this is a team that really likes to run the ball. James
Yeah,
Cook this game, he had 23 carries. He had 120 yards. Another Georgia Bulldog. He was fantastic.
that's what we do.
And Josh Allen, as much as they might not want him to run because of injury risk, he's going to run the ball a ton. He ran the
Right.
ball 8 times this game. And so I think it really comes down to there's just a couple throws a game where he's being targeted downfield. And if they connect, he's going to have a pretty good game. If they don't, he won't. He's just not utilized in the middle of the field to get these big yardage type games that these other guys are. And they do spread the ball around. Curtis Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Keon
Yeah.
Coleman wasn't a factor this game, but he could be later in the playoffs. So, as much as they're not highly touted receivers, he does have guys on this team that he spreads the ball to a ton. And they also have three running backs that they utilize a lot. Ty Johnson's in there,
Yep.
Ray Davis is in there, and then you got Josh Allen and James Cook. So I would say the main factor is because they're a rush first team. And then the
Mhm.
second factor is he's just not used in the middle of the field like the other guys are.
Yeah, Ty Johnson got him a touchdown this game. They balled out, man. I'm telling you, I like how Josh Allen distributes the ball. Well, it makes him such a good team because the ball can go anywhere, and they're also going to run it. They're versatile. They're dangerous. You know, they could beat
Yeah, until they play the
the
Chiefs.
Chiefs. You never know. You never know.
We'll break their hearts just like we do every year.
But we'll talk about some predictions before we go. I just want to hear. I know your Super Bowl prediction, but I just want to hear it just to let it settle on my heart. Okay. All right. Eagles versus Packers. One of those games where I kind of wanted the underdog. I like Jordan Love. Kind of wanted to see it happen, but the man had 3 interceptions. You can't win a game when you're turning the ball over consistently, especially against a good team. When they get the ball, they're going to turn that into a touchdown. 22-10. Jalen Hurts didn't really throw the ball that well, though. 13 for 21, 131 yards. Saquon obviously did Saquon things. And Josh Jacobs actually had a pretty decent game, too. I mean, 81 yards on 80 carries is great, but he got in the end zone. I know they didn't have Christian Watson, but this Packers team, it was a tough year for him. Tough year to come down to this against the Eagles. I mean, you probably had the Eagles winning in this, I'm sure,
Yeah,
right?
I did. Yeah.
It's just one of those things that they were gonna win, right? I wanted to believe, but they're the better team. And for a minute there, they thought Jalen Hurts wasn't going to be playing this game. Is that? I'm pretty sure that was kind of the
Yeah,
question
he
here.
was in. I mean, he just got out of concussion protocol the week before this game started.
Yeah.
Someone there?
So no, it's my dog at the door.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
I
have a
got
little
you.
we have a little bell, dude. He's just causing interruptions today. I tell you,
That's all right.
little
That's all
Winston.
right.
But yeah, Eagles. Not much more to talk about that. Saquon Barkley could be MVP, right? No, probably not. It's going to be Josh Allen more than likely. It's sad. It's quarterback award, but it is what
He
it is.
needed the record for that, and
He
it is what it
yeah.
is. It's going to be a quarterback more times than not. You have to really have a special season for to take it away from a quarterback. So hopefully it happens in the near future, but for the most part, it's going to be a quarterback every year.
Part of it. The league's scripted at the end of the day. But anyways, talk about script. Commanders Bucks. Baker Mayfield lost him this game, sadly. Jalen McMillan was coming across for a jet screen, and Baker Mayfield fumbled the ball. I think that was the pivotal part of this game. It was sad to see. I like both quarterbacks. Love Mike Evans. He had a great game, 7 for 7, 92 yards and a touchdown, but they just didn't pull through. Jaden Daniels, first playoff appearance, first playoff win. They may go all the way. You never know. The run game wasn't even that great in terms of they were just balling, man. I love this team. I love that they resurrected. How do you feel? I mean, I had the Bucks winning this game, low key, but I'm glad the Commanders did it. How do you feel about this game?
I had the Bucks as well, and they truly should have won. Baker, just like you talked about, had that costly fumble at the end of the game, but the Commanders' offense, it really is good. Terry McLaurin is their downfield threat, and then they have their two pretty talented running backs, Austin Eckler and then Brian Robinson. I know they didn't have a ton of yardage this game, but they really utilized them both on the field,
Yeah,
and it opens up the RPO a lot for Jaden Daniels, and that really they end up blocking for him. They end up faking the runs to these running backs, and then Jaden Daniels takes it. But he is such an effective runner, especially on third down or these long yardages. Even he's so elusive. He really plays a lot like Lamar Jackson, where he doesn't take these big hits, but he's able to evade the defenders. So I think the Commanders are a good team. They've Jaden Daniels has made Diami Brown a good receiver, which is kind
yeah,
of crazy. Even Zach Akias, Zacchaeus had a great game, the last game of
Yeah.
the season. So I don't know. They're a team that's pretty salty. They do play the Eagles next game. Is that correct?
I believe
Or they might play the Lions.
no, they play the Lions, which is worse,
Yeah,
to be
so
honest.
they're going to have to put up 30 plus points to beat the Lions.
Yeah.
So that's going to be tough.
Ah,
But this could be something that cements Jaden Daniels' rookie year just in the top echelon of guys. So if he can
dude, yeah.
go into the Lions Stadium next week and beat them, that's going to be that'll be crazy.
Crazy.
And I mean, this is just a cool story because he was pretty much universally accepted as the second best quarterback in that draft class,
Right.
and now he looks like the clear cut number one. So
Rookie of the year for
it'll
sure.
yeah, he's going to win Rookie of the Year, and he was even in MVP talks during this year. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gonna it's gonna be exciting to see them moving forward. If they don't win next week against the Lions, they have a bright future. So it's going to be exciting to see this team going forward.
That's gonna be a good game to watch, low key. I mean,
It will be.
we'll talk about our predictions. We'll see who we got winning this game. I think we I don't know. I'm an underdog guy. What can I say? Right? Right now, I wanted the Vikings to win this game because I like Justin Jefferson, but I can't go wrong with the Georgia. Man, the Georgia Bulldogs are just representing over and over and over again. Matthew Stafford has been balling out in this game. It's going on right now. They have 2 minutes left. Rams 27, Vikings 9. They're losing this game. Vikings had the ball, but they're going to lose this game. It is what it is. Sad. Sam Darnold, he held the ball in the pocket way too long. He couldn't handle the pressure. And low key, dude, this Rams defense is insane.
Yeah,
They're
it's young.
young and they're good right now.
They
So
fly. They absolutely fly around.
it's
And
crazy.
I think these last two games, Sam Darnold has looked terrible. And
Yeah,
I really think last game, the Lions kind of cracked the code on how to beat Sam Darnold, and it's just to blitz him.
yeah,
Normally, good quarterbacks love when you blitz because it offers good quick throws to the outside. But for some reason, Sam Darnold just cannot. He cannot throw out of a tight pocket like that when they blitz. So
no,
hopefully he still earned himself some money winning 14 games this year. But I think this might be a situation where he comes back to the Vikings next year and gives McCarthy time to heal, and then McCarthy will come in. But I don't know. It's sad because I was excited to see him doing so well, and then I was
yeah.
hoping he would sign a big contract somewhere, but that's not looking likely now.
Them underdog stories, dude, are so fun. I love it. Seeing a guy that like was written off and now like think of Baker Mayfield. That's why I love Baker Mayfield. Dude was like, oh, he's terrible, and he's brought a team that was he's just brought him into the playoffs and done well. Yeah, literally, Sam Darnold just got sacked again, dude. It's crazy. He needs to run, but he can't. He can't get the ball out quick. There's the answer. So we'll see
He's
how that affects
he's
his career.
he's not mobile. I mean,
No,
he when he takes off, it looks like he's running in slow motion, which I don't want to act like I could do any better, but
right,
geez,
right.
dude, he looks slower
Maybe
than crap. Oh,
that 40
maybe
time was crazy, man.
it did secure me the number 2 pick. Just saying.
So hey, second fastest in the group technically.
Hmm.
If we actually had everybody there, it probably would have been a little different. But yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, if someone didn't tear their Achilles and all that.
Dude, that crazy. That needs to be a story for another day. I think our next podcast maybe not only will be playoff talks, but I think we should talk about our takes on the beginning of the year and see how they turned out. We'll see how that.
Maybe we could get the person in question on the pod just for enough time to tell the story. Um, it was hilarious.
It'd be risky business. We love that guy, but he's a character, dude. Out it'd be we'd have to probably like censor him or something. I don't know. But
Yeah,
we might have to.
we might need to bleep a few words.
Oh, I love Parker. We may have to get him on though. We'll work on that actually. There's a few special guests. All right, to round this out, we're gonna predict the Super Bowl winners, and I'm pretty sure Matt's gonna say the Bills, but we'll see where he goes on that. All right, I'll go first because I know you're gonna already pick the Chiefs, right? So I guess we can go take turns, okay? Washington Lions.
Do it.
I'm gonna go with the Lions. I can't, dude. I can't. I know they're just elite. They're so good. and David Montgomery might be back. Possibly, and Aiden Hutchinson might be coming back too. Uh, so I can't. I would love to see Jaden Daniels, but I got the Lions. Are you there too? You agree?
I'm in lockstep. Yeah, the Commanders' defense has improved, but when you go up against Jahmyr Gibbs, there's not
That's
much you're
true.
going to be able to do, and they also have talent on the outside. They've
Yeah.
got Amon-Ra St. Brown. We kind of talked about Tim Patrick earlier. He's
Hmm.
kind of emerged as a middle of the field guy, and they have the deep threat in Williams. So I don't think there's any way that the Commanders can win this game. I think they were kind of playing with house money anyways. A rookie first playoff game of his career, and he won. So I think they're happy.
Barely
Just get
too.
yeah, they barely won. They're on a doink of all things.
Yeah,
No,
that was crazy.
people weren't really questioning that doink, but when the Chiefs won on a doink, it was just the end of the world. But
Here we.
anyways,
Uh oh.
I don't want to. I'm just saying. And when that ref came up to Josh Allen on the sideline and was talking to him while he was on the bench, no one said anything.
Yeah.
If a ref would have came up to Patrick Mahomes and whispered in his ear, it would be World War III about the script and all of that. But
Yeah.
anyways,
That's true. That's fair. That's
uh,
fair. That is
all
fair.
that being put aside, I think the Lions handle this game pretty easily. I would take this. I would take the Lions like +10. I think they're going
Yeah.
to win this. I think they're going to win this pretty handily.
Hopefully it's a good offensive game. I think it will be, but yeah, definitely Lions. Even though I hate to say that. All right, so it's going to be Rams Eagles. Honestly, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say Rams over Eagles.
I
Watching them
like it.
tonight with this defense, dude, and their offense is fantastic. I mean, Puka Nakua, Cooper Cup didn't even really get targeted this game, to be honest. And Kyron, he does what he does. So I'm going Rams over Eagles. I'm gonna be real.
I
It's
like that a
ballsy,
lot.
but yeah,
Yeah, if you know what, we ride or die. I'll go with the Rams as well. If Matthew Stafford is rolling, he really is a top quarterback in this league, and you saw that
yeah,
tonight. They kind of went into cruise control when they got a big lead in this game, which I don't blame them. But if it's I mean, you saw Matthew Stafford put up 40 points this year against the Vikings, so
yeah,
he's capable of putting up really high totals with this offense. Puka Nakua, as good as the Eagles defense is, I don't think they're going to be able to cover Nakua, Cup, and their tight ends played well today. Higbee had a
yeah.
great game,
He did.
and then not even to mention Kyron Williams. So
Yeah,
I think this Rams off. I mean, the Eagles did win, but it was with against a Packers team that had 3 offensive line injuries in the game. They lost Dobbs early in the game to a
yeah.
concussion, and Jaden Reed was having a great game before he got hurt. So I really think the injuries just totaled up for the Packers and lost them the game. But the Eagles' offense did not look just unbeatable. So I'll take the Rams with you. This defense is playing good, and so is the offense.
I like it. So it'll be a Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford. Uh,
Yeah, that's another storyline is traded for each other. So
yeah.
uh, it'll be exciting to see. I think Matthew Stafford is the better quarterback, so
Oh yeah.
it'll
Oh yeah.
be exciting. And the Lions defense, it still is injured. I mean, I know they got Anzalone back and he looked good last week, but it's still an injured defense, so they could be exploited.
Oh yeah.
What am
So
I talking about? We were talking about the Eagles. Never mind.
yeah,
Take that
yeah.
last point away.
That's okay.
I just had Lions pop up in my head. I was so excited to talk about them.
Getting all hype. All right. Speaking of
Yeah.
Lions, though, Lions or Rams. Uh, ooh, wow, that'd be crazy to see the Rams in the Super Bowl. Jeez. I'm gonna go with the upset. No, I can't.
The Rams beating the Eagles, that's believable, but I don't think
I
they
know.
can
I know.
I don't think they can beat the Lions.
Yeah, I gotta go Lions in the Super Bowl. I can't. I want to be that guy, but I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. So yeah, we'll see the Lions in the Super Bowl more than likely. Uh, man, dang, that'd be crazy. All right, other side here. We'll go quick. Texans Chiefs. Who you got?
I'll take the Chiefs.
All right,
I
all
think it's a
right.
pretty easy choice. If you pick the
Yeah.
Texans, you are going to get obliterated.
No, I gotta go Chiefs. I feel like they definitely can beat them, especially after like they didn't play that good against the Chargers, and the Chiefs know it's going to Nico Collins, Joe Mixon, and that's the two guys they got to worry about. And you guys have a good defense, and people are coming back for you guys as well. Um, so and Pacheco's been kind of still managed, but I think he'll have a huge load on this game. But Texas defense is good, but yeah, Chiefs all day for sure. Ravens Bills. This is going to be a fantastic game. I hope. Like I hope it's not a dud because that's like the worst thing when two top teams come together and it's like 6-3. Um, but yeah, who do you think? Who do you think? Ravens Bills. It's a
You
tough one.
would you would make me go first.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
This one's tough because I'm a documented Josh Allen hater
Yeah,
and also a Lamar Jackson hater if I'm being honest. But I don't know. I think the Bills are going to be the winning team here.
yeah,
Um, I they're the back end of the Bills defense struggles against the pass, but they are pretty good against the run. So if they can at least slow down Derrick Henry and make Lamar do the do the passing
mm,
and make him win the game through passing, I think they have a good chance at winning this. And Josh Allen, he's the type of player that can just go Superman. As much as
yeah,
I like to dislike him, this offense looks unstoppable at the moment, and I think the defense will play just good enough. I think it will be a shootout, though. I think
yeah.
they might both score 30 plus. So I'll take the Bills, but I think it's going to be a close game. It'll be a shootout, but I think the Bills, I'll take them by 3 points.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go Ravens here, and I'll explain why real quick. Number one, I want to give us a little bit of some variety here. But after watching them play the Steelers, which is a solid defense, their game plan was to literally stop Derrick Henry and do all they can to do it. And I don't know how many Lamar ran so much. He ran so much in that game. And so if he can stay healthy and like not get hurt doing that, it's like you got to it's pick your poison. You know what I mean? Derrick Henry's a dog, Lamar's a dog, and then they also played without Zay Flowers and still played well through the air. Uh, so Isaiah Likely's out there. I think the Ravens can beat them genuinely. I think if there's any team that can beat the Bills out there, they're one of them. So I'm gonna go Ravens in this game. A Ravens
I
Chiefs.
Yeah, it can go either way. I I think
It's
what leans me
destined.
over the edge. I think Josh Allen is slightly better than Lamar, and Lamar
Yeah,
had a great year. I can't deny it. But the Bills also have Matt Milano as their linebacker in the middle of the field, and I think he's going to be kind of a spy on Lamar Jackson and kind of contain those outside runs. But that being said, this game could go either way. I
yeah.
say it's a close game, but I also wouldn't be surprised if one team kind of runs away with it. And it could be either one. That's the crazy thing. So I think whoever gets started off hot early will probably win the game. So I think it'll be like one or two defensive stops, and then that'll be it.
It's gonna be a close one. So for me, I think I'm gonna go just to help you out here. I'll go Chiefs over Ravens. All right. I think the Chiefs definitely can beat them if they play them. Uh, I assume we're gonna go Chiefs over Bills.
Yeah, I'll go Chiefs over Bills.
Okay, I assume so. So here we have it. Our Super Bowl prediction is Chiefs and Lions. Who's your Super Bowl winner then, huh? I mean, what do you think? You think the Lions can do it, dude?
I think we're gonna rewrite history here. Be the first
Oh
three-peat
my
ever.
goodness.
Be the greatest dynasty ever. Greatest quarterback ever. There's gonna be a lot of first evers here. Travis Kelsey, best tight end ever. Um, I don't know what else to say about the Chiefs. Our defense is legit. McDuffie, he's a lockdown corner. I think he would be on Amon Ra and kind of shut him down. The only
Yeah,
place I think we'll struggle is against the tight end. Laporta is a very valuable player and a very talented player. But the Chiefs have been very good against the run, so I think we can at least limit Jameer Gibbs. And the only real place that Jared Goff has struggled is against pressure. And when you have a guy like Chris Jones in the middle of
oh,
the
dude, yeah.
defensive line, I think he can really cause havoc. And Goff is not a scrambler. So as long as we can get him uncomfortable and out of the pocket, I think we have a really good chance at winning the game. And you got the best coach in the league, best quarterback in the league. I think it's a smart bet to probably bet on the Chiefs.
That's fair. I just because. My dad is now an honorary Chiefs fan. They moved to Kansas City, and all of a sudden, his blood runs red. You know what I mean? He's a Red Kingdom kind of guy. I guess I got to go to the Chiefs. I'd love to see history be written this way, but I'd also love to see Jared Goff get him a championship. Dude was written off. It's one of those things too. But I think the Chiefs can do it. So we'll go Chiefs for the Super Bowl. Both of us are choosing the Chiefs. It's crazy. Red Kingdom all the way. I'm not
I
really a
will. I
fan, but
will
it is what
say,
it
if
is.
someone was to beat us, I wouldn't be. I mean, I would. I would obviously be upset. Like, don't talk
Yeah.
to me for a week. But after that week, Dan Campbell, he's a great coach, and
Oh yeah.
he's got that Lions team just firing, dude. They play with such heart, and they really are a great team. So I think that Super Bowl, as good as our defense is, it would be a high scoring game, and I think they would force the Chiefs to put up points, and we really haven't done that all year. So I think it would be an exciting game to watch because Mahomes can do it. It really depends on the game. Whatever the game calls for, he'll do it. And if it is a high scoring game, I think we'll score as many as they will.
I respect it. I'm excited to see how this pans out. Uh, Honestly, it's already kind of gone the way people have expected it to, majority of playoffs. So we'll see if that continues. But that brings us to the end of our show today. We are back in 2025. First episode. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Round of applause. If we had a button to do it, I would definitely do it. Maybe that's an upgrade this year. Who knows?
We'll
But
get one.
yeah, we'll talk to the people. We'll talk to the people. Don't forget, you can listen to us on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, share it with your friends. Let them know that we're the guys they need to be listening to, okay? We'll be here all year, so we'll see how it goes. I'm glad we're back, though. Number one, all right? It was good to see you and talk about football. Can't go wrong with football and the boys, right? I also think I forgot to say with your three boys in the lab so you can do the cooking at the beginning of this episode. So I apologize. So we'll have to double down next time. But we will see you again very soon. We hope you've had a good week, and we hope you continue to have a good rest of your week. Stay blessed. We'll see you later.
Peace.